Emilie Poe. This is my action research proposal presentation. The topic is elementary male students' perspectives of behavior and causes for office visits in an economically disadvantaged elementary school. Student behavior affects all classrooms and school culture. This is a cause that's across the board. At my school, more office visits come from boys than from girls, and our repeat offenses are on the rise. The same students are coming to the office more than once. When students visit the office, they lose instructional time. Every student deserves the maximum amount of learning opportunities available to them. When teachers can get their students back in the classroom and out of the office, students can get back to the very important business of learning. The purpose of my study is a phenomenological study to find new ways of understanding student experience. I hope to learn about the experiences of boys who are sent to the office and examine the causes for excessive school discipline and higher numbers of disciplinary office visits. Bhattacharya says that phenomenology encourages an inquiry that investigates the meaning-making of the structure of the phenomenological experience. If this study can identify why students are sent to the office, educators can make a difference in the number of office visits and help elementary male students remain in the learning environment. A couple terms that need to be addressed for this study. The first is an office think time form. This is a discipline form used in the school office for students to respond about the behavior incident. The form has the student recognize the behavior they showed, the effect of the behavior, and what action to take now. Then the paper is reviewed with the assistant principal or principal of the campus. A consequence is decided in this review time. The second term is economically disadvantaged. This is an impoverished student determined by free and reduced lunch status. It is dependent on a school's family or a student's family socioeconomic status. On our school campus, this is the amount of free and reduced lunch applications. If a family applies for free and reduced lunch, their information is sent to our district's coding department and flagged to the student's file as economically disadvantaged. One potential issue here is that a family might not apply for free or reduced lunch even if they would qualify for it. Okay, a review of the literature. The first thing is why this study matters. Correlations of the students' failing state tests and high out-of-school suspension rates. Monroe found that studies conducted with middle school learners have linked school disciplinary patterns with trends in delinquency. And second, that school truancy and aggressive behaviors in early elementary school predicts comparable behavior in high school years and beyond. Some factors that affect school discipline. The first is gender. Sheline found that many more boys were given office referrals than girls, 74 boys over 5 girls. And Gavin notes that girls have consistently outperformed boys in academic context for a long time. One possible factor underlying these differences is the tendency for boys to exhibit more resistance to schooling. The second factor was race. Curtis and Slate found that black students' suspension rates and expulsion rates were higher than white students. Teacher cultural background is also a factor. Monroe argued that educational occupations of power are predominantly white and middle-class people. This means that decisions concerning behavioral expectations and infractions are set forth by a specific cultural group, and it might not be the same as that of the student. School staff can issue punishments without connecting or understanding students' reasoning for their aggression or misbehavior and not being able to connect to them on a cultural level. The next factor is peer interaction. Gavin said that adolescents tend to adjust their behavior to the behavior of their class peers. some students might act out in a school setting because it provides a positive reward in another setting in front of their peers. Family dynamic also can be a factor affecting school discipline. Sheline found that children who exhibit violent misbehavior in school were 11 times as likely not to live with their father and 6 times as likely to have parents who were not married. They also had twice as many siblings. Another factor is student engagement. When students are intellectually immersed in learning tasks, they're likely to engage in behavior that detracts from the instruction at hand. And the student-teacher relationship is the last factor that I found affects school discipline. Collins found in a longitudinal study that the student-teacher relationship is central to student development and behavior. And Wood said that the teachers seem to judge students not neutrally, but through a lens of their reputation as a rule breaker. So they're treated with disbelief or suspicion. And Jacobson said that this need for teacher control leads to higher rates of exclusion from school settings. The behaviorist theory was an underlying theory across the literature that school's been set up around rewards and punishment. Woods said that behaviorist theory has been condemned as ineffective and not the only way students learn behavioral expectation, but approaches to school discipline continue to weigh on this theory anyways. Behaviorist theory did not lead to the expected conformity in her case study, and children in the study felt different reactions to getting in trouble. When students feel differently, they also behave differently. The 3 research questions that will guide this study are: what reasons are elementary male students being sent to the office? What are these students' perceptions of their behavior? And what can teachers do to reduce or eliminate negative office visits for elementary boys? The methodology, the school context, the study will take place in a 3rd and 4th grade elementary school in the rural Panhandle. Our district is set up to have only 2 grade levels per campus, except for the high school campus that includes freshmen through seniors. On our campus, 62% of students are economically disadvantaged. 47% of them are flagged as at risk for dropping out. At risk is determined by a district committee using student cumulative files. The flag results from a failed grade, a failed state assessment, or a CPS case filed within the last year. 50% of the school is male students and 50% are female. There are only 2 male teachers on campus out of 20 total classroom teachers. 48% of our school is Hispanic, and the average class size is 21 students. The design is going to be phenomenological and using focus groups, participant observations, teacher interviews, and student interviews. The goal is to triangulate the data and get a wider picture of what's going on. Data collection. The focus group is going to be 10 male students in 3rd and 4th grade who frequent the school office. To determine if the boys are frequent visitors, I will look through the file of office think time papers in our office. And the focus group questions will help to guide the conversation about their behavior and what they believe is the reason for their misbehavior. The student observations will be randomly selected from 5 of the students in the focus group for 10 minutes each in their own classroom. The goal is to see the student-teacher relationship connection and look for causes for office visits. That'll be followed with teacher interviews. Randomly select 3 teachers from the focus group to talk with. I will interview the teachers and the students as well from those 3 teachers' classrooms, listening for what they might not share in the focus group. What aren't the students participating in? I compared this to going to a staff meeting, participating in discussion, but maybe not wanting everyone to hear our questions, and so following up with an email or a one-on-one meeting. This is the same purpose for those follow-up interviews. Here are the 9 focus group questions that I will use to guide conversation. These are the participant observation note questions that I'll be making notes of. The left column is the student observation, and the right column is the teacher observations. Next is the analysis of the data. For focus groups, I'll listen to the recorded focus groups and transcribe the recording and code the transcription. I want to code student responses for positive and negative emotions about school, expressed feelings towards their teachers and classmates, and rewards or punishment the child believes that he or she received or that he received from his behavior. In the participant observations, I'll take field notes and write analytic memos reflecting as I interpret the data. And the teacher and student interviews, I'll listen to recorded interviews to transcribe those recordings and code the transcriptions for that. I'll be looking for the ways teachers respond to students and what behavior they ignore or engage with, how many times the child acts out, rewards and punishments, peer response. I also think it would be beneficial to code those teacher and student interviews with a versus coding to just focus on the conflict in there. Finally, we come to some ethical issues. I wrote about the subjectivity. I'm working with students who push the limits and are frequently seen as disrespectful. I'm a teacher in this school and will need to monitor my own feelings towards the students in the focus group and the teachers in the interviews. In valuing classroom management and positive student behavior, I may respond negatively to those teachers or students who do not have similar values to me. The next point is the damage-centered research. I need to be sure that my research does not suppress these students in a vicious cycle of misbehaving, talking about the behavior only to be misbehaving again and talking about it again on repeat. These students need a research study that does not frame them in a consistently negative light while also not using their words strictly for educational reform. The next one is the principle of beneficence. This study does not put any students in harm. It minimizes potential risks and maximizes potential benefits for these participants. The next is student choice. All students have the choice to participate in this study and the choice to leave, and parents will be given consent. Parents will give consent before beginning. And finally, student anonymity. All students and teacher responses will be kept private. To broadcast the results, I'll assemble a report of findings to indicate the major reasons for students being sent to the office, why students believe they are being sent to the office, and note possible suggestions for reducing the number of disciplinary office visits in elementary school boys. A limitation to the study is that the research is limited to only one elementary school with only 2 grade levels in it. There will not be any students participating below 3rd grade level or higher than a 4th grade level. And that brings us to the conclusion. The purpose of my study is to learn about the experiences of boys who are sent to the office and examine the causes for excessive school discipline and higher numbers of disciplinary office visits. This study will benefit teachers and administrators by informing them about students' perception of their behavior and potential ways we as educators can help. These are my references. Thank you so much.